Hey guys, Guthrie Trapp here, again coming to you from East Nashville, Tennessee. Hey, you know what? I figured, why wait? Let's go ahead and do the Telecaster. This is how to get some electric guitar tone, hopefully, volume 2. I've got my Russ Pahl Telecaster here. I just did a video not too long ago with the 335 and had some really positive comments and feedback on that, so thanks a bunch. I grabbed my Russ Pahl Tele here that he made, and I'm just going into my 66 Princeton Reverb. It has a private jack speaker in it by Eminence. It's a 12-inch speaker. I had the baffle board changed to accommodate a 12-inch speaker. Talk about a couple things I didn't talk about on the last video. I'm getting ready though to switch that speaker out to an Eminence Alessandro model 12-inch speaker that's really a great speaker for an old vintage Fender amp. So I had a couple questions on the thread and wanted to get to those. First of all, Russ Pahl made this guitar. He made the pickups. It's a Strat style pickup in the front position and a Tele style in the back. Volume and tone, normal, and a regular 3-way switch. Right now I'm bypassing all my pedals using the same pedal board I did in the 335 video. Boss Chromatic Tuner, RC Booster by Exotic Effects, vintage Nobles ODR1 overdrive that's been rehoused by Exact Tone Solutions. Those guys are incredible. My good friends, I got to throw out some props to them. The T-Rex Tremster, great tremolo pedal, and then the Brigadier by Strymon. And so what I'm doing here to get this tone out of the amp, I'm not at home. I don't like to play loud. I'm so play so much music out live and in the studio with loud headphones on, and I do like to play loud, of course, but when I'm at home, I don't like to listen to loud music at home. I like to just turn this little amp up to about maybe 3, not much more than that really. I just like to get enough of a tone to where I can feel it and get a nice attack out of the instrument. And then I'm running my treble with this guitar. I'm running the treble around 4.5 and the bass around 4. If I was on a gig, that when you turn up now, the treble's going to get a little bit more enhanced as you turn up the volume. So sometimes as the volume increases, sometimes you need to roll the bass down just a little bit, and then the treble maybe down a little bit too. I usually with the Telecaster usually end up running the treble about 4. And then the bass around 4. I don't want it to be too thin, but I also don't want it to be overly bassy or anything like that. So that brings me to my next point is use your ears and not your eyes. And what I mean by that is if you see somebody else's amp and you copy their settings and you say, oh man, he's using his amp on bass on 4, treble on 5, volume on 3.5. Well, that might work for that guy. His amp might be completely different than yours, different speaker, different guitar, different touch. All the variables are different. So you can use those examples as a good place to start maybe, but I really want you to use your ear. So, we get so stuck on visual stuff with the guitar, like our fingerboard and the way that, all these positions and stuff are and the pentatonic shapes and all that stuff. And we forget to use our ear and go, hey, what are we really hearing? What are we really playing? What's really going on here, And so rather than looking, and I'm guilty of that too, man. I look down and go, oh my God, my treble's on 5. It needs to be more like down on 4. Well, I go, and then I stop and go, hey man, every room is different for one thing. You really got to tune your tone to the room. Another thing is that I've noticed is, and then I'm going to play some, I promise, is the treble, what you might think is really bright sitting right here, by the time you get 15 feet out in front of it, all those tones have developed and you need that high end. So a lot of times, don't freak out that you're too that you got too much treble, because a lot of times by the time you get out front, those tones they take a while to develop, right? So there's that. The other thing that I didn't mention on the other video is with single coils, depending on what pickups you have, these are pretty low output. They're like vintage style pickups, right? They're not overwound. And so if I switched from this guitar to that guitar with the humbuckers on it, there'd be a drastic increase in volume. So when I go from a Gibson to a Tele or a Strat, the volume's going to come up a little bit, maybe even a notch. The treble's going to go down a little bit, and the bass might come up a little bit. So these are little adjustments. These aren't drastic, anything drastic. It's just to accommodate the volume difference in the pickups. And I don't do that with pedals or anything. I just do it right on the amp. If I'm in a gig or a session or something, I just turn right down and adjust it right on the amp, right? So that's a really good thing to do. So use your ears, not your eyes. The other thing is your right and left hand. So this is a huge thing that we don't think about. And I notice a lot of guys really hitting hard with their right hand. And what happens is I'll turn this volume down on this guitar. What happens is you end up with this really splatty kind of sound. Where, you know, this is an electric guitar, but like an acoustic instrument, you can only hit it so hard until you have a diminishing return on your tone, where it just chokes the instrument out. So you really have to, and I love this term, you have to pull the tone out of the instrument. And if I had an acoustic guitar or my mandolin or something here, I could really show you how to do that, man. It's that right hand. You're just coaxing that tone out of the instrument and letting it breathe and do its thing. And it's almost like that tone just kind of bubbles up behind your attack, to whereas if you hit it really hard, it just chokes it out. So that would be like, you know, you're getting that really harsh, abrasive, buzzy, rattly, and ultimately it's out of tune because you're hitting so hard that string is, you know, moving and vibrating more than it's supposed to. So you really got to pull the tone out. This is direct right into the amp, and I'm using a really light touch. Another thing I'll tell you, you can tell I've been drinking coffee all day. 49 days no booze, but I've been drinking a lot of coffee, which is, you know, whatever. So I like these. Happens to be a Diodario, but any kind of medium Fender style pick. And I use the rounded edge. A lot of guys know that I do that. I use the rounded edge of the pick because I feel like it has a really nice attack. I like the way it hits the string and kind of rolls off without being harsh or you know, a lot of pick noise or something like that. And what my theory on this is, the way these are pressed at the factory, it's a nice round edge. And I don't mean necessarily this way. I mean like this way, the way it's actually, you know, stamped out in the factory. And these type picks, I don't know what that material is, but it's a really nice sound. And a lot of these picks that are really too thick, or they have a harsh edge on them where the machine stamped them and left a little edge there, they sound bad to me. They don't sound natural. Anyway, getting off that into some playing, you know, this is, my attack's really soft with the right hand. But that gives you an idea. My right hand is really, really relaxed. And sometimes you get a little excited and you might want to, you know, it's about your phrasing too, what notes you hit. Sometimes I do really want to lay into a note a little bit more. Pop a couple of those notes out, but you know, just really focus on what you really want to say on the guitar. You know, if you're playing the blues, you might want to, you don't want to play weak or like anything like that, but you don't want to be hitting so hard to where you're knocking stuff out of tune or having a really splatty kind of tone. Another thing is to keep in mind is different parts of this guitar are going to sound better than others to me. You'll see, like when you play up on these low strings down here, those sound good. You get up, you start playing down there, you work your way down to like this area of the neck here where the guitar really sounds good in this range. So as I work up, I'm not going to play the bass notes on these high frets. They start getting weird. This gets so short that the magnets are pulling and it just gets out of tune and weird sounding there. So I'm playing the high notes, you know, your E and B and G string up around here. And then as I come down the fingerboard, I'm playing more in these strings, which to me really sounds good right around here, that kind of mid-rangey of that area there. So there's that. Jumping around a little bit here, and then I promise I'll play some more. There's a helicopter going by, probably a robbery or something around here. Anyway, reverb. So I love reverb. That to me is the greatest guitar effect. I am not inspired really to play through a dry amp sound. It's really hard for me to do, and I just don't like it. I don't like playing through a dry amp. I love a little bit of reverb. It just softens everything up. And I like, normally on a Fender amp, I'll start around 3 and see where it goes. If you get too much, it just gets kind of washed out. But 3 is a nice place to start. You can kind of hear that nice decay. It just gives you a little bit of ambience and a little bit of inspiration to play. That's kind of how I set that. If I was playing some blues, like a slow blues or something, I might creep the reverb just up a little bit, you know. I talked about treble. I actually got some notes here because I wanted to go over some of these points. Talked about the treble, gain pedals. So let's talk about this a little bit. It's easy to add too much distortion to where your amp is too saturated and too compressed. So don't be afraid to turn your drive or your gain down a little bit on your overdrive pedal and then turn the volume up a little bit. And make sure you're using your ear here too, to where if you have a nice punchy clean sound, right, you got a nice punchy clean rhythm sound, then you go to take a solo and you've got a lot of distortion, but it's so compressed that it's not punching through like you need to. So be careful. Less gain is more. So turn the gain back a little bit if you're used to a real saturated tone. And it just gets kind of harsh and sizzly and raspy sounding too if you have too much gain. So experiment with turning your gain down a little bit and your volume up. So when you do hit an overdrive pedal, like let me turn this RC booster on here a little bit. This is going to sound like this. It just extends things just a little bit. You barely know that's even on, right? Little roundness to the amp. Not a lot of gain or overdrive, it's just a little clean boost. So then, if I hit the nobles, then it's increasing in volume just a little bit, because your solo or your rhythm stuff, when you hit the overdrive, you do want it to be just a little bit just a little ahead of your clean tone. If you don't, you won't be heard, and you'll lose all your punch and attack and everything. So that's what that Noble sounds like on the back pickup. Since I'm down at such a low volume, it's not going to sound quite as good as it would if I was cranked up. You know, the high end is going to be a little bit different and stuff like that. So if I had this thing cranked on 4, it would really be awesome sounding. But so I want to talk a little bit about the gain pedal and the saturation and stuff like that. Be careful with that. The tone knobs, I didn't talk much about this. I don't really mess with my tone knobs that much. I use the volume all the way up because I feel like that gets the most power and punch out of my pickups. I tend to adjust the amp to kind of do what I need to. I don't really use the volume control that much. I just leave it all the way up. And then I'm using my right hand for dynamics a lot, you know. Same with the tone knob. I usually use the tone knob all the way up. And every once in a while, if I'm playing something jazzy, like I'll do that song. Something like that, I might roll that tone knob back just a little bit to take that sizzle out and give, even that's too much. Maybe just a little bit more. Jazzier tone, right? What you can do on a Tele and a Strat, you roll that tone knob just a little bit back, and you're playing a really nice kind of jazz tone. Voicings. This goes back to playing with an overdrive pedal on. If I'm playing this chord, there's a lot of information in there. There's a lot of there's a third, and some of that stuff can kind of. Some of it can get a little muddy if you're playing those big, you know, chord. You don't play this C chord with a lot of overdrive very often because there's a lot of thirds in there, a lot of major thirds, and those can get really muddy with the more distortion you have on. It's better to keep stuff like those thirds work because if where it's more, you know, ones and fives, basically power chords, right? Where we're keeping the voicings clean and kind of they're spread out a little bit more, interval wise, or that might be the wrong term, but you know, this kind of thing where it's more like that and less big giant bar chords where it can get kind of muddy and the bass will get out of control and all that kind of stuff, right? So I gotta say, before I get out of here, I hope that helped. I kind of went through a lot of stuff on that pretty quick because I wanted to cover some stuff I didn't get on the other video. No extra charge for mistakes, and I gotta say, click the links or at least check out the links below my website, the education stuff, the lessons, and all that kind of stuff. Check out my website, check out some music. I got 2 records out that I don't really talk about that much. I'm not a very good self-promoter, but I do have some stuff out, and lots of stuff to come. I'll be touring a little bit with John Oates coming up on the East Coast, and some stuff down in Florida, whatever. But thanks for all the support. I'm going to keep doing this. These are not professional videos with mics and cameras and all that stuff. I got my iPhone here in my living room, and hey, it just is what it is. But thanks a lot for following, and spread the word. You know, I'm enjoying doing this. I'm getting some good feedback, and I appreciate it. I'm a lucky dude, and let's play some guitar. All right, guys. See you soon. Thank you.